Good morning, North Carolina. The sky is blue and the temperature is chilly today in the Charlotte 704. Just in current events today, not that many people know what probability is, and on the Dens and Friends news team, we are here to help. So you're probably wondering what probability is. Probability is the branch of mathematics that deals with the likelihoods and chances of different outcomes occurring in uncertain situations, like rolling a dice or some forms of gambling. When you break it down to its purest form, probability quantifies the unknown by assigning a numerical value between 0 and 1 to an event, where 0 means the event will not happen, and 1 means that it will certainly happen. We will explain more in depth later. In short, probability helps us understand and predict patterns in random events, from gambling to games of chance to real-world happenings like weather forecasts or financial markets. A good way of thinking about it is that remembering probability isn't just guessing or making assumptions. It's grounded in reasoning. By fully understanding probability, we get closer to understanding the uncertain. Back to you, Andrew.
So in this segment, we're specifically taking a look at empirical probability, and there's really two key things to remember here. These are things that we're dealing with things that actually happened or actually occurred, and a few examples are like a survey or an experiment. And the formula, which is, and as our textbook puts it, the number of times event E occurred over the total amount of times the experiment was performed. And now let's take a look at an example here just to demonstrate this. So in this example, we have a survey of 200 people, and they pick their favorite different types of dessert out of these selections, which is cake, ice cream, and brownies. We're going to specifically take a look at cake here. And we have the question of what's the probability of someone selecting cake? So you would take this 64, which is the number of times cake was chosen, over the total amount surveyed, which is 200, and you'd get 0.32. You could keep this answer, or you could do 0.32 times 100, which would be 32%. So for this question of what's the probability of someone selecting cake would be 0.32 or 32%. Now we're going to go over and toss it on to Sydney.
There are two types of probability, empirical and theoretical. Empirical probability is the probability of an event based on the result of an actual experiment conducted several times. This means that you are able to tell what an outcome may be based on past events or experiences and is based on a more factual basis. You analyze facts and statistics from previous studies and apply them to the current situation you are in. On the other hand, there is theoretical probability. This is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes. This means that no experiment needs to be conducted prior to probability being determined. Before choosing the type of probability you will use, you must analyze the situation prior. If there have been similar surveys before yours, then you would lean towards empirical, and if there hadn't, then you would lean towards theoretical. I'm going to hand it over to Michaela.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michaela Ware, and I'm here to talk to you guys about factorials, combinations, and permutations. Factorial is a form of probability that isn't as well known as other mathematical equations. It's made out of positive integers, often used in different forms of equations, such as permutations and combinations. For example, factorial is shown to the right side, to my right side, factorial 6, can be solved by breaking down the number 6 to the number 1 and multiplying each integer together to get the final answer of 720.
And now we're going to hand this segment off to T for his take on sample space.
Let's look at sample space now. Sample space is defined as the total number of outcomes for a specific test, event, or trial. Therefore, we have this example question here. What is the sample space of the color on a traffic light as a random car approaches it? We know that a traffic light has three possible colors: red, yellow, and green. Therefore, the sample space would be red, yellow, and green. Translating this to probability, if the question on a test were to ask you, what is the probability of it landing on red, yellow, or green? Since there's three possible outcomes, this would be a 1 out of 3 chance of them landing on a specific color. Converting this to a percentage, it would be 33%. Now passing it off to Tay.
Thank you so much, T. So, in order to calculate the probability of a sample event, we must first define our sample space. Then, we need to count the total number of possible outcomes for the event. Next, we need to identify and count all of the favorable outcomes. Lastly, we calculate the probability. The formula for this is P parenthesis E in parenthesis, meaning the probability of the event occurring equals the number of times the event occurs over the total possible number of outcomes. For an example, let's take a regular die with 6 sides. If we were looking for the probability of rolling a 4, this would be our PE. There is only one 4 on the dice, so we would put 1 in the space for favorable outcome. There are 6 sides on the dice, so we would put 6 in the space for total outcome. This means that the probability of rolling a 4 would be 1 over 6. Super simple, right, guys?